We firstly want to apologize for the late starting. We initially agreed on 10:30, but we hope you will accept our apology. We would first start by introducing all the comrades here representing various affiliates. We have SACAU leadership is here. We have SASAU leadership. We have PAUSA. We have PAUSA. We have SACAU. We have SASAU. We have Communication Workers Union. We have FAU and the football players and DINOSA. These are the affiliates that will today talk to you with regards to what we are here for. We may not call them by names, but this is the leadership of these affiliates who holds senior positions in these affiliates. The general secretaries, the presidents, and leadership in those various affiliates. Perhaps the other part that we may talk to whilst we're still dealing with the introductions is the purpose of this press briefing. What really led us all here is what we term to be a serious historical moment that we all observed on Saturday, the expulsion of NUMSA. And we further are saying it's unfortunate because there were no lessons drawn. There were no lessons drawn as of what happened some years ago in CAUSA and how was CAUSA assisted in the very same COSATU Federation. We at the time had a slogan that said CAUSA should be kept in COSATU. And this is what we expected again to see happening with NUMSA. Instead, it went vice versa, saying keeping NUMSA outside of COSATU. And that's what we may not sit and fold our arms, see our own comrades being humiliated in that fashion. Those were the introductory part. We'll hold it up to there until we are fine with the statement to be read, which will be read by Comrade, the General Secretary of FAU, Comrade Katishi Masemola. Comrades, as I've indicated, that the Comrade General Secretary is the one who's going to read the statement. You as well will be finished with the statements once the copies are made available for yourselves. Comrade Katishi will start reading.
No, thank you, President, and thanks to the members of the media. I'll go straight and read what is otherwise a comprehensive press statement. And thereafter, as the president of SACAU would have said, we will then entertain Q&A. I hope I'm audible enough and everyone in the room is able to hear the little that I am going to be saying in the next few minutes. This press conference has been called to provide an opportunity for the media, the public at large, and especially trade union members as to what this group of unions has to say about the paralysis undermining our federation. We hope that this press conference will finally refute any suggestion that the unions gathered here are in any way subservient to or under the control or influence of NUMSA through financial or any other means. NUMSA is one of us and shares our commitment to rebuilding a democratic and worker-controlled COSATU. This has been a sad and shameful week for South African trade union movement and for the working class in general. COSATU, once a militant and profoundly democratic trade union federation, which was an envy of workers worldwide, has now become reduced to a shell of its former glory. The expulsion of NUMSA, which NUMSA represents 350,000 metal workers, by a mere 33 CEC delegates, is an attack on an organized working class. Throughout this affair, NUMSA comrades have been treated unfairly by the COSATU leadership. They have been denied the most basic rules of fairness and justice and had to defend themselves against a series of arbitrary accusations for which no evidence is provided on wrongdoing. They've been picked out and victimized when other unions have taken similar positions before and nothing has happened. At the CEC, Central Executive Committee meeting last week, NUMSA had prepared a compelling response in advance to the charges that has been leveled against it, and NUMSA and which have been defined by the High Court. On every single accusation that have been leveled against it, NUMSA gave a full and comprehensive response and pointed out how this was entirely consistent with the existing policy and the practices of other unions. However, despite the content of the NUMSA document, it was clear that from the outset that a particular cluster of unions wanted one thing only, and that was the expulsion of NUMSA from COSATU. Some of the leaders of this union had stated well in advance and before that they were not prepared or they were not willing to engage in a debate on these issues, but had wanted to simply surgically remove NUMSA from the federation. As far back as February 2014, a special CEC of COSATU came to a conclusion that NUMSA must be suspended and or expelled. This CEC called this a preliminary review and requested NUMSA to show cause why it should not be suspended or expelled. We now know that NUMSA provided a 59-page statement as to why they should not be suspended or expelled from the federation. NUMSA registered in the special CEC of the 7th November that the COSATU leadership never responded to their submission, which they gave the COSATU leadership months before. Before turning on the events of the 7th November 2014, we must say that the unions in the CEC who were pushing for NUMSA's expulsion moved a motion on the 23rd of October CEC that NUMSA must be expelled even before NUMSA could be asked to make representation on why it cannot be suspended. So these sister unions of ours made a U-turn after determination to vote on 2 motions after lunch in the same CEC, and suggested that NUMSA must be afforded an opportunity to explain why it should not be expelled. Therein lies the predetermined decision to expel NUMSA under the stewardship of the current COSATU national office bearers. During the CEC of the 7th November, NUMSA General Secretary made a comprehensive submission of 48 pages for about close to 3 hours, providing details in respect of 5 charges that COSATU NOBs have leveled against NUMSA. In addition to providing a more than 100 pages submission in the CEC, NUMSA's presentation isolated and responded to the following charges with compelling arguments. 1. The decision to call on COSATU to break its alliance with the ANC as one charge. Here NUMSA pointed out how SASBO, a banking workers' union, has been a non-aligned political had a non-aligned political policy and does not contribute to the COSATU SACP political levy. NUMSA has also pointed out that SAMO took a similar resolution not to vote for the ANC before a particular local government elections, and yet none of these unions were ever threatened with expulsion. On the second charge that relates to a decision to organize a march to COSATU House to coincide with the first CEC in February 2014, NUMSA refuted the claim that it organized a march to COSATU House, even if its structures had mandated their leadership to do so. On the third charge, being the decision to hold back on paying affiliation fees to COSATU until the Special National Congress is held, NUMSA made the case that it was fully paid up and it was an affiliate in good standing, even if there was a resolution to withhold subscriptions. On the fourth charge relating to decision to cease to pay their contribution into the political levy, NUMSA argued that many affiliates were in arrears, but that NUMSA nevertheless felt unhappy to contribute to SACP coffers given the attack on NUMSA by the current SACP leaders. On the fifth charge, which is the decision to extend NUMSA's scope of operation, NUMSA presentation provided a very detailed record of how almost all affiliates of COSATU had amended their scope, which extends into the scope of other unions or other spaces, and nothing has been said about those unions. Now, having listened to NUMSA, a sincere request was made to the CEC that unions be allowed to take back to their structures the very comprehensive and detailed submission made by NUMSA for a mandate. It was also requested that COSATU national office bearers to process the NUMSA submission with their own verification of the 5 issues that NUMSA made a submission on. As it is in the public knowledge now, it is the fact that 33 people voted for the expulsion of NUMSA. And any reasonable person must ask the following questions. Was the process fair, and did laws of natural justice find expression in this whole saga? The answer is no. Did the CEC make a guilty finding on the 5 charges? The answer remains no. From this, it is clear that NUMSA has been expelled unfairly. NUMSA document was not circulated in advance, and we as affiliates were deliberately denied an opportunity to discuss it beforehand and to secure a democratic mandate from our structures as unions. Nevertheless, NUMSA presented their document and provided, in our view, a very firm evidence of how positions that they took in the December 2013 Special National Congress had their origins in the existing COSATU policy decisions. For example, at the CEC, it was obvious that some affiliates were not interested in a rationalized engagement on the issues raised by NUMSA. They were not prepared to listen, to take their discussions back to their members, or indeed abide by the rules of natural justice as espoused in the COSATU Constitution. NUMSA were at the CEC to be victimized, we want to believe, not because they have transgressed any of the COSATU policies, but because they were implementing some of them. All of the accusations leveled against NUMSA were simply not credible. And it is the duty of all trade unionists, we want to argue, to defend NUMSA against trumped-up charges that emerged, and to defend NUMSA against unsubstantiated accusations that have been leveled against them. The expulsion of NUMSA will not solve the intractable paralysis that has consumed COSATU since the Watershed 2012 National Congress, and since the revolutionary compelling resolutions taken therein. If anything, it will make it far worse for the working class, and indeed, the state and capital will be the winners as the working class loses out of this current situation. All of the unions represented here at this press conference are not prepared to see NUMSA being treated this way, for they know that they will find themselves attacked despite the fact that they too have played a meaningful role in building and maintaining our federation over the years. Now it is the time to come to the defense of NUMSA and to challenge the unconstitutional and divisive actions of the current leadership of COSATU. It is time to take our gloves off and to fight for the federation and save it from those who would want to plunge it into unprecedented crisis. The current leadership, as represented by a numerical majority in the CEC, has become paralyzed by factionalism, by neglect or by being negligent to the needs of members and to the interests of the working class, and has turned away from the radical worker bias policies endorsed by successive COSATU congresses over the years that have made it a powerful defender of the working class. Instead, it has turned towards blatant collaboration with neoliberal policies as enshrined in the National Development Plan and other government policies. The fate of COSATU is at the heart of the current divisions. What we are witnessing is the battle of ideas, a contestation between revolutionary and reactionary policies and programs, and a fight for the very soul of our federation. This is a battle between those who want to see a true and genuine radical transformation of our economy and those who may have abandoned all hope for a radical change of our economy for an increasingly conservative form of class collaboration. This is a contest between those who want to implement the radical policies agreed in COSATU Congress and those who would want to turn the clock backwards, or at least reduce COSATU into a labor desk. NUMSA has been especially targeted by those with vested interest in maintaining a passive alliance, or at least a COSATU that will be a rubber stamp in such an alliance, despite the fact that government policies have not benefited the working class. A section of unions has been prepared to expel 350,000 plus workers from COSATU by a mere casting of a meager 333 votes. This irrational and vindictive action by those has more than anything else laid bare the shameful episode in our history as a labor movement. Those responsible for dividing COSATU at the time when its unity is needed more than ever before will one day be called to account and will be forced to explain how and why they engineered divisions in an organized working class formation for their own narrow national and political interest. The unions represented here at this press conference completely reject the charges that NUMSA has contradicted the policies of the Federation. On the contrary, the attacks on NUMSA and before then on comrades Zwelinze Mavavi were made precisely because they were seeking to implement COSATU policies and to reopen discussions on other existing policies. This has always been a vibrant part of our internal discussions in COSATU. And how else can policies be refined, be made relevant, and be connected with the changing needs of the working class if they are not proposed for refinement? What the expulsion shows is that even revisiting existing policy and seeking to democratically clarify your own stance is now considered treasonable by the leadership of COSATU. So insecure and oversensitive are the political leaders of the SACP that any challenge to the orthodoxy they defend is considered dangerous, counter-revolutionary, and in the words of one Nehao leader, those must be surgically removed. We believe that NUMSA has been singled out because of the radical decisions that were taken in their Special National Congress last December, including their decision not to call for the collective support of the ANC, and because it sought to withdraw support from the alliance as well. The personal, political, and organizational attacks that followed from senior ANC and SACP leaders were very vicious. To say this was uncomradely behavior may be an understatement. The SACP, which is currently in debt to the COSATU for its rental, was financially and organizationally dependent on unions such as NUMSA for very many years, as was the ANC needing the Federation and its support, and its affiliates for support when elections were called. The fact is that there was a section of the leadership of COSATU who did not allow these public attacks which allowed these public attacks to go unchallenged, but who were also prepared to carry out or similar attacks themselves to expel NUMSA and to marginalize Comrade Zwelinze Mavavi. If evidence was needed to prove how the COSATU CEC has strayed from being an accountable, worker-controlled, and independent structure of the Federation, then this must be it. Over the last 2 years, there has been a series of constitutional blunders by COSATU, which has cost a fortune in legal fees through misguided attempts to defend the indefensible. One classic example was the suspension or unconstitutional suspension of Zwelinzima Vavi, and the absolute waste of financial resources that was involved in pursuing this unconstitutional suspension. Not only did this lead to massive legal bill paid for by members' subscriptions, but also visual shutdown of COSATU campaigns, and left the Federation without any credible and capable leader in addressing the needs of the working class. Without a credible COSATU leadership, the ANC government was able to disregard our demands to ban labor brokers, to place moratorium on e-tolls, and moratorium on the youth wage subsidy, and many other matters. Our objections to the legislation to increase state secrecy, to increase state secrecy, or measures to tackle corruption at all levels, including defending the office of the public protector, have largely gone unheeded. Addressing the disaster of unemployment, of inequality through a radical economic program has failed to materialize. What we only now have is a neoliberal masterpiece in National Development Plan. This is one of the reasons why a coalition of these 9 unions was established, to fight for a leadership of COSATU that will implement COSATU decisions, including the 2012 National Congress resolutions. What we are witnessing is an attempt to neutralize COSATU and turn it into some subservient or at best an uncritical formation within the alliance. One of the worst examples of unconstitutional behavior has been a blatant refusal by the president of COSATU, Comrade Dumo Dlamini, to call a special national congress, despite a clear responsibility to do so. It is now abundantly clear that the attacks on NUMSA were aimed at undermining the campaign for this special national congress, and to try and curtail the clamor of hundreds of thousands of workers who would want to see a revitalized COSATU capable of defending their interests and campaigning for their rights. Instead of responding to the crisis in our society, where millions do go to bed on an empty stomach some of the nights, and where hundreds of thousands of young people have no prospect of getting any type of job, never mind a decent job, we now have a factionally riven federation that sees the enemy within its own ranks. Instead of taking our campaigns to where power and wealth actually reside, to where workers continue to be super exploited, the current leadership decides instead to contribute to the split of the federation. We reiterate that there is a deep triple crisis of unemployment, poverty, and inequality in our country, yet the section of COSATU, there is a section in COSATU that only wants to listen to some sort of good story. Despite the attacks on NUMSA and the attacks that are likely to follow on Comrade Zwelinzima Vavi or on other unions that are not prepared to allow this paralysis to continue in the federation, we've resolved to accelerate our campaign to transform and reclaim COSATU through the following measures. With immediate effect, we are suspending our participation and cooperation in COSATU boardroom palace politics. Secondly, we are urgently calling and convening our NECs and CECs as individual unions in order to discuss the crisis in COSATU and to reaffirm our mandates or even get fresher mandates. Thirdly, we are renewing our calls for a special national congress, believing that it is the only way of dealing with the current paralysis in the Federation, and to ensure that COSATU once again becomes a militant, independent, worker-controlled campaigning federation that will campaign for an end to super exploitation, class oppression, and socialist South Africa. Fourthly, to ensure that a special national congress to ensure that there is a special national congress, we will pursue a mass program in every corner of this country to mobilize workers so that these workers can demand that this special national congress take place without delay. And we will also pursue this noble goal for a special national congress in the courts of law as well. Fifthly, we will be supporting our comrades in NUMSA, and we will be campaigning for a reversal of their unconstitutional expulsion. There can be no COSATU without NUMSA. There can be no unity without others. Sixthly, we will remain and continue to be vigilant and guard against any further victimization of those of us who are prepared to campaign for a progressive agenda, including on offering the hand of support to those who are being attacked within their unions for supporting this program. Lastly, we will refuse to accept that the crisis we will refuse to accept that the crisis that we have will be treated as business as usual. We would not do that. We intend to seize every opportunity to defend and save COSATU from those wanting to destroy it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Com. Thanks. There are details there in the event you want to make some follow-ups. We will be noting, but let me request the comrades here, as and when you answer, just say your name and the position of your union.
And as they ask members of the media, they must state where they're coming from, which media outlet.
And the media would do the same, would say as to where you're from. We'll firstly take 5 questions and deal with those and follow later. Let me first start here. I'm not sure whether you, we do not have a roving mic, but can you make sure that your voice is heard?
Okay. In the statement you say you'll be suspending your participation in COSATU and cooperation as well. So can you please expand on that and until when?
Okay. Question taken?
Natasha from the Business Day. It's also linked to that question. If you are suspending your participation in COSATU, how are you going to then campaign for a special national congress if you're on the outside? What exactly do you mean by cooperation from the boardroom and palace politics?
Okay. Let me take that other hand.
Rani from Local News. What exactly do you mean by court action? You will also pursue it in the courts. Could you expand on that, please?
Have you noted that?
Can you just repeat this?
Can you repeat that question?
What exactly do you mean by we will also pursue it in the courts? Can you expand on the court action there?
Okay. Okay, it's noted.
Also linked to, it's Yonisa, SABC television news, also linked to the question of suspension of participation in COSATU. Where do you get the mandate? Have you spoken to the workers? Is this a new mandate, a fresh mandate? that in support of NUMSA, you now going to suspend your participation?
Let me first check as to whether that has been captured. Lady Capturilla, those questions. 5.
I'm Kalang from Bloomberg News.
From?
You said you're going to embark on a national campaign and mobilize workers. When will that start? What shape or form will the campaign take? Will there be protest action, marches, or the like of that? And then also, just touching on the court action, when are you envisioning that you will possibly begin with the court action?
Okay. That will be the last hand.
All right.
For this.
Okay, Polly from ENCA. With all that you have said now, what would you like to see the COSATU General Secretary do at this point? Would you be comfortable with him campaigning and championing the policies that you clearly state here, such as the NDP, that are neoliberal or are anti-worker? What do you want for him to do if you were to talk to him right now?
Thank you. Thank you.
In other words, are you comfortable with him remaining in that COSATU National Office Bearers structure?
Yeah. Let me check. Anyone ready to answer?
Take the last one. Okay.
Which one is that?
Just indicate you're taking it, the last one.
Yeah. You're responding to ENCA?
Okay.
Okay. Say your name, your position.
Well, my name is Oprisha Balala from Communication Workers. I'm Oprisha Balala from Communication Workers Union. With regards to the participation of the General Secretary of Federation, Comrade Zwelinze Mavabi, we are comfortable with him participating. However, we know that Comrade Zwelinze Mavabi has been championing the program of the working class, the resolution of the Federation. The challenge now that we are facing is that he's been shut down. And we know for a fact that he's now the next target going forward. So our fight in COSATU is to fight to win back COSATU, to bring it back to its originality, where it champions the voices of the workers. So we cannot call for him to be removed from COSATU. We want NUMSA to come back. We want the General Secretary of COSATU to be the General Secretary that you know, that advocates the interest of the workers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe let me try and respond to as many as I could, and then give my colleagues a chance to also follow the General Secretary of Communication Workers Union in adding. The question by Sowetan on suspending participation and cooperation, what we're saying is that in that CEC, which is essentially a palace, where decisions that have so much profound organizational and political implications are taken, we would not be part of such processes of participation in the CEC until we get mandates, fresher mandates from our NECs and CECs that we're going to convene in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That's every union here in the next 2 to 3 weeks will be convening a special CEC or an ordinary CEC or NEC. And then immediately thereafter, we are going to be convening joint session of NECs and or CECs of the unions that you see here today. The purpose will be to get an up-to-date, fresh mandate of where to go from here. So the suspension to really, the idea to really suspend our participation will only last for 2 to 3 weeks, and therefore they shouldn't be worried that we may lose much. In any case, the campaign for a special national congress will remain. It doesn't have to be in the boardroom. It can be pursued in various workplaces, in the streets, but more importantly, in the structures of the federation. So we will still pursue to push a campaign for a convening of the special national Congress. The question that was, and I suppose I've also answered, but my colleagues can come in here, or answered Natasha on a similar question that Sowetan has asked.
Well, my name is Paul School, General Secretary of Shakal. My name is Bones School, General Secretary of SACAO. There is a question about what do you mean by court, going to court. Already there's an application that was made by the 9 unions to court when there was a blatant refusal observed, and to some extent an uninformed decision by what was termed a CEC that excluded other affiliates, to the effect that there will be no calling of as National Special Congress. That application was only removed from the roll at the behest of the ANC task team that was intervening in the paralysis within COSATU. That's the question I wanted to.
Okay. Thanks, Comrade. Yes. Thanks.
Let me just answer your lesson.
Okay.
Just to further answer your list from the SACB. I mean, sorry, SACB. My apologies. Remember, there's a standing. All these unions that are here have a standing mandate to defend NUMSA, to convene the Special National Congress of COSATU, and to defend, in fact, the reinstatement of Vavi and his continued role as the General Secretary of COSATU. Now, those mandates are standing. What we are saying is that we're convening these special CECs and a joint CEC-NEC as affiliates, the 8 unions, or the 7 that are here, because the developments of 48 hours ago or so have necessitated that we get even stronger mandate as to what next do we do, beyond just making calls. How do we ensure that those 3 mandated positions are realized? And we will ensure that we do that, like I said, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And of course, like Bra Bones have said from COSATU, we will be resuscitating the court action that we've always had on the convening of a special national congress. So we will be doing that to make sure that indeed COSATU leadership is forced to convene the special national congress.
Whilst we still going to have some answers perhaps from the comrades, I just want to make an addition to Sowetan, the question you asked. When we spoke of boardroom and palace politics, we referring to the like CECs and other political commissions that are there, but the local councils where ordinary members do attend will still be attended by members. Thank you. Okay. I will then start on the new hands here. Let me start here.
Thank you so much. My name is Govind from Eyewitness News. I'd like to know if the unions that will be convening the CECs and the NECs over the next 2 to 3 weeks, will you be asking your members if you should leave COSATU? And has that consideration been made by any of the unions? And have you thought about what would happen if NUMSA does not return to COSATU?
Okay.
Taylor Missler from Power FM. If you could just tell us where is Samu? Is Samu still part of you? If you could clarify. And also, is there any concern that other unions might follow if Samu has left, follow that path? Thank you.
Okay. Let me go to the next one. Yes, sir.
Jana Lange from Beeld Newspaper. I just want to know, are you, the 7 of the 8 unions, including Samu, are you united on the agenda for the Special National Congress that you are calling for? And if so, what is that agenda? What do you want to do?
Thank you very much. Lisa Hunt from the Very Garden. So, you say with the effect you're suspending your participation, does this mean that these unions are not going to participate in the Central Committee meeting that's going to be happening at the end of the month? And also, has there been a fallout with Samu? What happened with the people at Samu?
Okay. The next.
My name is Hajra Marjorie. I'm from ANN7. I think central to this position that you've taken is worker control, and you say you have a standing mandate from your members. You are 7 with NUMSA, that is 8. Are you not disrespecting the mandate that the other unions had from their members to expel NUMSA by taking this position? Secondly, the NUM's General Secretary Frans Baleni said yesterday that if NUMSA show remorse, stop recruiting or kick out members that they've recruited from other unions, they can come back into COSATU. I'd like your view on this, given what was said or what was not said by NUM in the NEC. And how was that you have a mandate to defend NUMSA? How was the decision to suspend your membership in COSATU taken over the last 36 hours? Did the NEC meet? Did the leadership meet? A mandate to defend NUMSA and to suspend your membership in COSATU are 2 different things. In my opinion.
Okay, thanks.
Andrew with the Financial Times. Given your obvious disillusionment with COSATU, what is stopping you forming a new federation, saying now is the time for a new federation? And what would have to happen before you get to that stage? I mean, NUMSA have talked about the possibility of that. And how many workers do you actually represent as the 7 unions? What's the size of you? And when will you go to court? On this year soon. Thank you.
Can I check at the back if there's any other hand? Okay, let me take ENC.
Metoli again from ENC. I guess mine is quite simply this. Do you not run the risk of actually being the next NUMSA that gets kicked out of COSATU if you continue in this way?
Let me take the last 2 hands from
Yolisa again. The ANC intervened via their task team. It would seem like they failed spectacularly, hence the expulsion of NUMSA. NUMSA has asked that COSATU moves away from the alliance. What is your position with that?
Natasha again. The agenda for Saturday, for Friday's meeting included 4 other items, including the disciplinary action against the General Secretary of COSATU. Has that been postponed to a later date, and does that fall within the next 2-3 weeks when you say you are suspending your participation in all CECs? Would you be willing then to not attend or to not participate in a meeting which possibly discusses the disciplinary action against the General Secretary?
Thank you. Thank you. Let me check.
So just one last question. Have you received any confirmation? Shanti from Independent. Have you received any confirmation from COSATU on the expulsion? And when do you expect? I mean, have you spoken with the COSATU leadership? Have you spoken to the president of COSATU or the general secretary of COSATU to, express your discontent and tell them your plans? And do you expect to receive any sanction?
Thank you, President. I'm Chulakanya from the General Secretary of the South African Football Players Union. Let me start with the point of the suspension of membership of these unions. I think we need to put it clear to yourselves that at no point did these unions say they have suspended their membership in the federation. We have not said that at all. But equally so, we have expressed a view that says we will, of course, suspend the participation in that palace, what we term the palace politics. Because, you see, you can't continue. In actual fact, I think we have delayed this particular process because you can't continue participating where the constitutional issues or the constitution of the organization is continuously undermined. I mean, we can talk about the call for the Special National Congress. We can talk about the processes in terms of how NUMSA ended up being suspended. Of course, one of the issues that you would know, you might be aware of, is that NUMSA would have made a presentation, and what we believe to have been a genuine process, or supposed to have been a genuine process, would have been to engage with that particular process, to say, all right, we have made a presentation, we've just had this presentation, can we therefore go back and engage and get that particular mandate? So we can have it both ways. You can't continuously be saying, let us go to that committee that automatically will make you to endorse the decisions which are not there. Whether you agree or you do not agree, you will endorse them by default, simply because you are there. But we have not. And strategically, so we have said, let us go back and revisit the mandate that has been given to us. Let us go back to members. And we have said it again, we will continue participating in the shop stewards level. We will continue in all these committees because we need to have support, including going to other affiliates and say, look, this is where we are. How do we then move? Because there's one thing that we believe in, is that there is only, there's one solution to this, getting the members to decide on what direction should this union take. And by the way, this will tally in with what was asked by Eyewitness to say, have we said we want to go out of COSATU? Do we impose ourselves and so forth? We don't impose the decisions of the leadership on members. We go to members, hence this thing, we go to members and we say to members, look, this is the current situation. You had given us the mandate to support this call, and this is the end result. This is where we find ourselves. Can we engage? And whatever the members decide on, we will go out there fearlessly and defend the position that would have been given by members. So we don't impose. We are not the leadership that goes out there, regardless of whether the members are saying this, and we go out and impose ourselves on them. They must, at the end of the day, it has to be the mandate from the members and the working class that needs to see the light of day.
Thanks.
Press.
Press.
My name is Clyde from Communication Workers Union. On the question of Franz Baleni, that NUMSA must show remorse, I think it's hypocrisy from France to say that, because when NUMSA finished its presentation, instead of unions asking questions, he was the first one to respond and say that we have reached the end of the road. Now, end of the road means that there's no point of return. That was the response of Franz Baleni. So I think that response yesterday was just hypocrisy from Franz Baleni. Two, around, and I think Tolokanya, the GS of SASFO have responded to the issue of, we've never said we are going to suspend ourselves from COSATU. I think we are saying we'll go to members, and members will guide us in terms of, do we attend the central committee, the CC of COSATU? I think members will guide us in that process. And I think the issue of the 8 unions around the whole issue on, are we united on the special congress? We're very united on the special congress. In actual fact, immediately after today, we'll be convening amongst ourselves to persuade that matter further with our attorneys. So that matter will not rest. We are persuading it after the specific press conference. Thank you.
Thanks. Comrade Ndu.